Welcome to the weekly message from Unity North Tampa, presented here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today's message is The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, Week 3, Forgiveness, and was recorded on Sunday, March 26th, 2023.
So say with me, I'm already there. I'm already home. See, friends, unity is a healing movement, and sometimes because we say we're a healing movement, we keep feeling like we have to act wounded. But I'm telling you, we don't have to be wounded anymore. We're already there. We're already there. Yes, we're a healing movement, but as we heal, there's work to be done. Amen? Right? So I want to really encourage you to think about, how am I not living my already there? Right? So there is this way in which we act as if something that was happening way in the past is happening now. Right? So part of our spiritual growth, part of our development is really living into that healing and living into that. I'm already there. I'm already home. All is well. When we say those words at the end of every service, and we say them with our kids too, all is well, we mean that from the highest level possible. Not that things have not happened. Anybody in here have a perfect life, or, right? Nothing happened. Anybody? Anybody? No? Right? So we are healed, here to heal, right? We're here to grow, to prosper, to evolve. And today is about part of that healing, right? We've been in this series. This is week 3 of a 4-week series where we're talking about one of the most important practices of your entire spiritual journey, and that is forgiveness. So say with me, it's time to forgive. Together, it's time to forgive. It's time to forgive. Yes, it's time to forgive. Now, in my own spiritual journey, what I can tell you is that I have practiced forgiveness for so long. Sometimes I forget that it's a little hard if you're new to it to think about. Because we have this erroneous idea about forgiveness that if we forgive, it means I'm letting somebody off the hook. I've thought that. Anybody else ever think that? Yeah, you say, oh, I'm not forgiving him. I ain't forgiving her because they did me wrong. Yeah, they did me wrong. And you know what? I'm sure you're right about that. I'm sure you are. But what I've learned is that when we hold on to that done me wrong, you know what that does? That connects us to that hurt over and over and over again. That the more we blame, the more we look for somebody to blame, the more we say, they did this to me, the more we do that, the more stuck we become. And it's hard for life and good energy to flow in and through our lives and in and through our world where we're holding on to things from the past. What we're doing is we're actually living today as if 30 years ago were happening, or for some of us, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And I'm saying it's time to release that. Say to the person next to you, are you ready to release the past? I mean, some people say, I don't know. I'm not sure. Now, there's a lot of good in the past too, right? So, a few years ago, I say a few years ago, it was right after COVID started, and I had a little time on my hands. Anybody else have a little time on your hands when COVID started? And I found myself going through these old photos of my life, and I didn't realize what I was doing was going to be healing, but in fact it was. Because like all of you, I have stories about things that happened in my childhood that certainly significantly impacted my journey. And many of those things were very difficult to forgive. And so as I was going through these pictures, I said, oh, look at that. I was 2, and another one where I was maybe 7, and then there was one where I was a teenager, and then I saw this one where I was diving in Honduras, and I was the only one that caught a fish on this deep sea fishing, thing we did. And then I was in New Mexico coming out of this kiva, that's a spiritual place for the native people. And then there was another picture where I was I was conducting an orchestra. I was the conductor of this youth symphony in Washington. And I was looking at all those moments. And I said, you know what? I've had a pretty good life. And I realized that I had given so much attention to the hurt that I had forgotten to give attention to all those life-giving moments. And it helped me move into even more forgiveness for the past. Right? And so what I did is I got one of those big frames. I went over to the little craft store in town. I think they were one of the stores that were open in COVID. And I got one of those really big frames that holds like 20 some pictures, you know, and I put this whole little collage of my own little life. Yeah. And it's right by my bed. So the first thing I look at every morning is that. Because it's full of my joys and my life successes. Although one of the pictures is me and about 3 years old, and there's these, in the house I grew up in, and there were these big, you know, those things that you cut, outside, those big loppers? There were open loppers right by my feet there in the picture. I was like, yeah, that picture, I'm going to keep that one. You know, I'm just not going to not forget that there was a lot of danger around me, right? But then I look at everything after that and all the ways I was able to turn that around. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because the larger my healing becomes, the easier forgiveness is, and the quieter those voices are that say you can't, or you're not good enough, or you're not supposed to have, or am I enough? Right? So what keeps us stuck in the past is unforgiveness. Right? So there is this whole mystery in forgiveness, right? Because what is forgiveness really? It's really love, isn't it? That word forgive, though, it conjures up the idea, and I mentioned this before and wanted to come back to it, that somehow we're condoning bad behavior. And what we're really doing when we forgive is what? We're saying, I don't want to carry this energy anymore. Because the fact is, whoever it is that hurt you, you holding on to this negative energy is not even hurting them. It's only hurting you. Any of you in the 12 steps have heard about this, right? The word for it is what? Resentment. We learn in the 12 steps, it's like taking a poison, hoping somebody else will die. Right? That we hold on to this negative energy, this negative energy, this negative energy, and then we wonder why life isn't working. Well, life can't work if you're still holding on to the past as if it's happening today. And there's this grand day that stretches out before us every single day, and we keep bringing old baggage in. It's like we're carrying this invisible bag with us. Right? So forgiveness frees us of that. And it's kind of like one situation at a time. Like I had a client one time. She is really brilliant. When I first met her, she was a piano teacher, and she was driving to each of the homes teaching piano lessons. And that was just her view of her life. She was very educated and everything, but she just drove to each house and did these little piano lessons. Well, she started doing this forgiveness work. And she said, I'm being guided to go back over my whole life. And I'm going to forgive every single situation I can think of. And she would bring this notebook to her session about this thick of all the people she was forgiving, and the writing and the journaling and the release. And after months of us working together, what happened was she decided to go get her master's degree. And now she's like this big wig in business, that releasing herself from the past, just her life just exploded into new experiences, new education, new relationships, a new place to live. And I hear from her every few years when she can work me in to say, hey, how are you? Life is fabulous. Because she's still working those spiritual steps. But the key was her forgiveness. And oftentimes, friends, we have to forgive ourselves first, don't we? Say to the person next to you, don't forget to forgive yourself. In other words, remember to forgive. Right? Remember. If I ever say don't forget, one of our members, David Lopez, always says to me, no, it's remember, it's not don't forget. You're in unity, he says. And remember to forgive yourself. You say, for what? Well, we often think we've done it wrong, right? We could have done better. Right? Have you heard that? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. You've heard that? Yeah. I wish I would have done it this way. I could have done it that way. As a parent, sometimes you ever look over how you've parented your kiddos and go, oh my gosh, did I really do that? Did I really say that? The answer is yes. So forgive, release, let go, move on. Because you were doing the best you could with the light you had at the moment. All of us, right? So now as I'm saying all this, it may sound flippant in the way I said, forgive, release, let go, move on. But I mean those words. And I mean you can't move on until the forgiveness happens. In my own journey, number one practice for me, so you've heard me talk about a couple practices. Really, it's meditation, forgiveness, and tithing. Those are my main three practices. Those three. They all keep me in the flow. Those three. Yeah, meditation anchors me to spirit, and then the tithing keeps me in line in my financial life and keeps me trusting, connected to God, and that forgiveness just releases old toxic energy so new can come in and through. So, in the book we're studying, Edwene shares her journey about forgiveness, and she gives perspective on her life, but I hope you'll read that. There's some beautiful stories in there. What it all comes down to is forgiveness is an emotional and I think spiritual house cleaning. It's saying these thoughts, these ways of thinking, these resentments, these beliefs about the past are holding me hostage from moving forward. So sometimes when we talk about forgiveness, we say, well, I don't know. I've heard people say this exact thing to me. I don't know who I'll be if I forgive. And I say to them, exactly. That's the point. Because somebody new is trying to come forward. Something new is trying to come forward in your life and world. And as long as you're holding on to the past, the new cannot come forward, right? So what I'm really talking about when I'm talking about forgiveness is love at the highest level.
Thank you for listening to the weekly message from Unity North Tampa here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com. This message is copyright 2023, Unity North Tampa, all rights reserved. Our theme music, The Light of God, is composed by Shannon Croft and used with permission and available at shannoncroft.com. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.